we do a song now. Rachel, if we do a song now.
I am woman, hear me roar. Numbers too big to ignore. And I know too much to go back and pretend. 'Cause I've heard it all before. I've been down there on the floor. No one's ever gonna keep me down again. I am wise, but it's wisdom born of pain. I've paid the price. Look how much I've gained. I am strong. I am invincible. I am woman. You can bend but never break me, 'cause it only serves to make me more determined to achieve my final goal. And I come back even stronger, not a novice any longer, 'cause you've deepened the conviction in my soul. I am wise, but it's wisdom born of pain. I've paid the price. Look how much I've gained. I am strong. I am invincible. I am woman. I am woman, watch me grow. See me standing toe to toe as I spread my loving arms across the land. But I'm still an embryo with a long, long way to go till I help my brother understand. I am wise, but it's wisdom born of pain. I've paid the price. Look how much I've gained. I am strong. I am invincible. I am woman. I am woman. I am invincible. I am woman. I am woman. I am woman.
Thank you, Barbara. Henry, good job. Is it on now?
Yep.
Oh, good. Thank you both. Great job. If you haven't done so yet, would you please silence your cell phone? And then we will begin with our daily word for today, Sunday, May 12th. And the daily word is Mother's Blessing. I honor and bless the world's mothers. Today, I offer a blessing of gratitude for the loving, nurturing spirit of mothers. I believe my mother and those who have shared a mother's love by supporting me throughout my life. I think of the many ways they have been present for me over the years with unconditional acceptance and love. I envision all the mothers, grandmothers, and caregivers throughout the world surrounded by love and light. For those in my life, I take time to express my appreciation with world's gifts, time together. To mothers-to-be, I prayerfully affirm health and ever-deepening joy. To mothers no longer in the world, I hold them in loving prayer and hold thoughts of joy and gratitude. I bless their souls on giving journey, knowing bonds of love keep their memories alive. And from Proverbs chapter 31, verse 28, her children rise up and call her happy. Once again, our daily word is Mother's Blessing. I honor and bless the world's mothers. And now, please join me in reciting our mission statement. We are a loving, nurturing community dedicated to being a positive path in spiritual living, to awaken oneness with God within us all. We dedicate this year to activating the abundance and prosperity in our lives with gratitude, love, action, and connecting to the divine within us and the world around us. And after today's service, our mission statement comes alive as we share fellowship with conversation and food. We broadcast live on our YouTube channel. Simply go to our webpage at www.unityoftheseacoast.org. If you scroll down to the links for our live services or past services, and on YouTube or Facebook. There is also a blue button called Donate, which allows you to help support our outreach. If you prefer to mail your donation, our mailing address is Unity of the Seacoast, McConnell Center, Suite 246, 61 Locust Street, Dover, New Hampshire, 03820. And please use our website or our meetup page to see event details. Upcoming events are, we have Poets in Unity, oh, I like that. Poets in Unity, which meets Saturday, May 18th, from 2 to 4 p.m. right here. And Game Night. Game Night will meet Friday, May 24th, 6:30 p.m. right here. Right? Next week's talk will be on, do we use the Bible or know just what we hear? I look forward to that. And now it's time for Namaste. Namaste is a Sanskrit word that means the Christ in me sees the Christ in you, or the best in me sees the best in you. We stand, put our hands in a prayer position, and look the other person in the eye and say, Namaste.
And now we'll do another song.
This is a song for my mother, all of the good that she does. And she has a heart that's overflowing with unconditional love. Just when she thought that her family was safe and her childbearing years were done, there was another surprise in store. This time it wasn't a son. My mother has the patience of a saint, but then what choice did she have? The children who had the curiosity that could rival a herd of cats. Oh, mother, you didn't know what you were in for. Daughters, they say, are so naive. I feel that I should apologize for turning your hair to white. When anyone speaks of my mother, they recall her kind face. She is a perfect picture of the embodiment of human grace. She can find laughter in any situation, no matter how great or small. She can find truth in the heart of the matter, and that's the greatest matter of all. This is a song for my mother, all of the good that she does. She has a heart of gold that's full of unconditional love. She can find laughter in any situation, no matter how great or small. She can find truth in the heart of the matter, and that's the greatest matter of all.
That was awesome. I can tell I'm going to be out there driving today, all the way down the road. I'm going to be dee 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 dee. It'll keep me going. Good, good. Nice job. And now, of course, it's time to introduce our speaker. One of the things that I realize that stumbling along through all of these years is that now and then you run into somebody who really is a strong support. And I have found a friend who is just that. And so please join me in welcoming our speaker, Tom Schindler.
Thanks, Frank. You know, I always say I like short introductions because I'm kind of humbled and I get embarrassed by them. But they mean so much to me. I don't take them lightly. So every compliment, everything you guys ever said about me, it really lands. So I thank you. We had two great songs. First of all, I want Dee 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 to be our theme song. I'd like to hear that every time we're walking down the road. And then I Am Woman, the opening line. I am woman, hear me roar. As a man, that's all I need to know. So I want to start with something that has nothing at all to do with my talk. It has to do with something we heard on the way in. And unfortunately, this happens too much. We listen to the news on the way in when we drive in together. There was a sign in Portsmouth, "Keep New Hampshire White." And they're taking that, at least to the state Supreme Court, as a battle of free speech. And I'm a big proponent of free speech because that's what I do. But I don't know if we have limits. And I don't want to touch that right in any way, shape, or form. I just wish that it was used responsibly. And the argument is that if they pass a law against free speech like that, maybe there's a small group of protesters of something on some other level that will be silenced by this law. So we have to be aware when someone really oversteps the boundaries of free speech. If it harms another human, we don't necessarily need to say it or post it. You know, I always hate these bumper stickers that say F this, F that. Even if it's cancer, nobody likes cancer. But I always think of the kid on the school bus. You know. So just be aware that with rights comes responsibility. Responsibility to your neighbors, to your community, to people you've never met. And I think that gray line, it gets eroded. So, and it is a gray line because everyone has a different value system. But we don't have to move that line so far away that nobody can recognize it. So that's all I want to say about that. You guys get it. I will add one thing. We were one of the last stops on the Underground Railroad. We were an important part of history. Oney Judge, who was an escaped slave by George Washington, settled in New Hampshire because she knew New Hampshire would protect her, and did. He was doing anything to get her back, and he wanted to send troops up here and everything, and people in New Hampshire said no. And she, said, "You want to fight to get me back? I'll let the whole world know what you're doing. You advocate for freedom, and you're doing this." And George Washington backed down. So we have an amazing history. It's not as great as other states, but we do have a great, unique history in our part in equal rights for everyone. And maybe that should be the lesson. If you're using free speech, remember equal rights for everyone. So anyway, thanks for my rant. And my time's up. So today's story, it's one of my favorite books in the Bible. It's the book of Esther. The story takes place around the 5th century BCE. So 500 years before Jesus, 500 years before Mary, mother of Jesus, Mary Magdalene, and all the people that we focus on for Mother's Day or women. I'm going to ruin this king's name every time I mention it. It's King Xerxes. Xerxes is the more common way from the movie 300, but he has a banquet for 180 days for all his officials, and then another 7 days for the whole people. Really big decorations, everything flowed, wine and such, and it was a great celebration. And on the final day, he ordered his queen, Queen Vashti, to come to be paraded around for her beauty. And what she had done during that week prior is she gave a banquet for women to celebrate women. And she gets this order: you must show up so I can show you your beauty. She says no. She refuses to be used like that, and this angers the king. And he consults his people and the laws on this, and they say, "Oh yeah, that's wrong, that's wrong." So they set a precedent, a royal order first, that she is banished, stripped of all her title, and that men or women must honor their men. And this goes understated because she only has a couple lines in this story. But think about what she did. She told the king, the most powerful man, that she will not be used as an object. it shows something about her at that time when everything was still a male-oriented society. She risked awe, let go of awe for her principles. It also tells you something about the author of the book of Esther. That part did not need to be in there, but he did enough to keep it in there. And he did it cleverly by only a couple lines and making it appear that she's in there because she went against men. This line survived all the cuts made in the Bible from the Nicene Council through all the years, because this little line made it seem pro-man. And that's very important, because if you read the Bible, it is very pro-man. You have to really search out the strength of the women. And the wonderful thing is there's a lot of strength in there. Mary Magdalene, not much written about her in the Bible, but she had the strength like no other disciple. Followed him from the beginning, never wavered, witnessed the torture, never backed down, didn't deny him, all the way up until she was the first person who saw him. So when you read the Bible, make sure you take time to notice the women in the Bible, because there's incredible strength there. And this author did something amazing by finding a way to keep Vashti's name in there. And Vashti should always be remembered with the women's movement, because she was one of the first that we know of to stand up and say, I am woman. So the decree is sent out that all men should be the master of their own house. And then the most beautiful women in the kingdom were gathered. And I should say the most beautiful virgins were gathered, so that they can be groomed for a year until the king could decide who was going to be his new queen. So they were groomed, how to behave and cosmetically and to be pleasant. Now Mordecai is this guy. He's raising his cousin. Cousin's name is Esther. She is also beautiful. And she was picked to be one of these women. Mordecai said, oh, bring her. So she went. Esther didn't reveal that she was a Jew. And after a year in the harem, she was summoned by the king. Now, in this day, you could not approach the king. If you did, you had a 50-50 shot of either seeing him or be putting to death. It didn't seem to be like a gray area. If he held out his golden scepter, you were welcome. If he didn't, the guards would come take you and put you to death. No one ever asked him for directions. Are you going to finish that sandwich? I kind of get the feeling that he was very bipolar. It was one way or another. One moment lavishing feasts on everyone, the next moment offering you death. But if he was happy, he would hold out his golden scepter and you knew that you were welcome. The king saw Esther and he was just taken, and he held out his golden scepter and she became queen. And had a banquet in her honor and created a holiday in her honor. She still did not reveal that she was a Jew or that any of the Jews that were in the kingdom. And she was moved into the palace. Now Mordecai would sit outside the gates of the palace just to hear news of his cousin Esther. And while doing this, he heard a plot to overthrow the king by two of the top guards of the king, who were both eunuchs. Why the Bible puts that in there, I have no idea. But she tells the king, and the men were captured and hung. And this gets written down, and who foiled the plot and such. But the king doesn't see what was written down. But to replace these men, he promotes a man named Haman. And he's promoted above all the other officials. Now, his ego sets in when he gets this promotion. Because of this title, all the other officials in the kingdom must bow to him. And really, anyone must bow to him as he goes by. Except for one person won't bow to him, and that's Mordecai. Mordecai probably does not bow to him because he only bows to God. But there's also a legend that Mordecai and Haman had met before. They had traveled together as delegates to Persia. Haman drank his water very quickly, and Mordecai conserved his. And Haman kept begging Mordecai, please, I need water, I need water. And he kept saying, should have rationed yours out. Finally, Haman says, I will be your slave if you will give me some water. So Mordecai gives him the water. Mordecai never acted upon that. He never said, okay, you're now my slave. But he was not going to bow to this man who had pledged himself to him. And this really, really angered Haman. He kept thinking, Mordecai needs to bow to me, I have this promotion. But he knew he just could not single out Mordecai. So he decided again, instead to plot against the whole Jewish people in the kingdom. And they did a thing called casting lots for a day. In other words, picking a random day. And this is called Pur. P-U-R, no E at the end. And the day that was picked was the 14th of the month. Haman went to the king and told him of a people living in this kingdom who do not honor the king's laws. And he had the king issue a decree that on that day of Pur, P-U-R, all the Jews would be killed. And 10,000 talents of silver to the men who would carry out this killing and take the possessions of the Jewish people. So this decree went out, and the Jews went into mourning. Now in the Bible, a sackcloth is like a dingy ashen cloth that the Jews would wear as a protest or a sign of repentance for sin. This time it was wearing as a protest. It's an external demonstration of an internal condition. It was a visible mark that someone's in deep sorrow and mourning. So the Jews, including Mordecai, would wear this sackcloth, and it identified themselves as Jews. Now think about that. A law saying on this day that if you are Jewish, you will be killed, and all your possessions will be taken. I should probably put that first. So as a form of protest, they wore clothes that identified themselves as the people to be killed. So the king, thinking he had created a law to rid a lawless people, he cast the area in turmoil. He had issued an armed massacre against his people. There was a large population of Jews, there was intermarriage, there was intercultural dependencies on each other. Esther sent garments to Mordecai to wear so he would not be identified as a Jew, and he refused. Instead, he sent documentation of the law and the day and asked Esther to do something. And she sent a message back that she could not speak to the king unless summoned. Otherwise, she risked being put to death. Mordecai reminded her that she is Jewish. At some point, she most likely will be identified and be put to death anyway. He said, perhaps you're the chosen one. But if you're not, odds are someone will reveal that you're Jewish. So she told Mordecai to have everyone fast for 3 days, and she will as well, and then she will go to the king. Now, 3 days is important in the Bible. It's symbolic of honoring the days of Passover. it's a time to build up courage and strength. Jesus took 3 days to overcome death. So 3 days is an important number in the Bible. But on the third day, she dressed in her finest outfit and linen, entered the court. And the king saw her and held out his scepter. And she approached. And he asked her, "What's your request?" And she requested that the king and Haman come to a banquet that she had prepared. And they came to that banquet that day. And at the banquet, again, the king asked her, "What is your next request?" She said, "Come to another banquet tomorrow, and I will make a banquet." So this pleased Haman, because he felt the banquet was for him. The king and the queen admired him so much that they're having 2 banquets for him. He left, and again, as he passed Mordecai, Mordecai would not bow to him. And this infuriated him more. How could he not bow to him after how much the king and queen loved him? This ate him so much that he went to his relatives and said, "What do I do?" And the people said, "Build a gallows right outside your home, and that's where you should hang Mordecai." So he had the gallows built. That night, the king was troubled about the plot to kill him. So he ordered the records that were written down about who foiled the plot to be brought to him. And he learned of Mordecai, how Mordecai had heard the guards talking and had, passed the news on. And that saved his life. So he wanted to know if Mordecai was honored for this. And he was told nothing had been done. This is where the book kind of gets very Shakespearean. Haman enters the court to discuss putting Mordecai to death. But the king wants to discuss honoring his most trusted servant. Haman's ego takes over, and he assumes it's him. And he asks the king, and the king asks, "How do I honor my most trusted servant?" Mordecai, thinking it's for himself, writes, tells him, "Let royal robes be given to him. Let him ride the royal horse and be paraded around the town and the city, so all the people can see who is the most honored." The king thinks it's a wonderful idea. So he tells Haman, "Please honor the most trusted person in my kingdom. Honor Mordecai and spare no expense." So Haman got the finest robes and did all the things, paraded Mordecai through the city, and then he rushed home, and he was angry. And all his people knew that he could now not have Mordecai put to death. How could you put to death the one that the king honored so much? And he hurried back to the palace for that banquet. And I would assume he's just eaten up inside. On one hand, he had the honor. He has to honor the man who he feels has no respect for him. Yet on the other hand, he's going to the king and queens for a banquet for him. And at the banquet, while drinking wine, the king asked Esther what her final request is. And he says he will do anything for her, up to half his kingdom. And this is where she shows her understanding of the whole situation. She's kind of understood it up to this point, but it really settles in. She knows that the king cannot resist her. She knows, she's proven that by walking into the court unannounced several times, and he's accepted her, and now he's offered her up to half his kingdom. And what she is asking him cost him nothing. Perhaps it costs him his reputation if he doesn't grant it. But she knows he can't put Mordecai to death now, the man that she just honored. So she says, "If I have found favor in your sight, then let my life be spared, as well as the life of my people." And the king balances it all out. I've just honored the man. She's the one I love. I can't put either one of them to death. And I cannot put their people to death. And he says, "Who would presume such a plot?" And she tells him of Haman's plot and what he did to get this law, his deception. And this angers the king so much. He storms off, goes out to the garden. And Haman stays behind to beg for his life from Esther. And he throws himself on the couch where Esther is sitting, pleading. And the king sees this as he walks back in. And he takes this as an assault on the queen. The guards grab Haman, and he's hung on the very gallows that he had built for Mordecai. The following day, the king gave Mordecai Haman's home. And Esther told Mordecai who Mordecai was and of her people. She explained what it is to be Jewish. And then she requested to have the orders to have all the Jews killed to be removed, which he did. And those who plotted against the Jews who would participate were again put to death. This guy put a lot of people to death. And it's written that on the day Haman had picked to destroy the Jews, that was the day that all the people in the plot were destroyed. And that day the enemies were destroyed, and it was followed by 2 days of celebrations. And those days now it's called Purim, Purim, which is a holiday that's celebrated. And it's one of the greatest holidays. I had a friend of mine who's Jewish who lives in New York. And he once told me all these childhood memories of his family making gifts and little treats. And it's just a wonderful time of celebration and rejoice. Now, if we go back to Genesis 1:27, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female, he created them. In God's image, male and female. We are expressions of God's image. Therefore, we have both that within us, the divine male and the divine female. Esther is that part within us that recognizes ego and egoic thought. Haman represents ego and all those thoughts that destroy us. Selfishness, misinterpretation, separation from the truth. Mordecai is humbleness within us, working for fairness and righteousness. He doesn't have to wear the sackcloth. He can take the new garments, but he is us. He's steadfast in who he is. Wearing a sackcloth is a protest. It's a Black Lives Matter sign. It's the equal rights sign. It's the sign supporting any oppression, any oppressed group, anything. It's that part of us that wants us all to have a level playing field. And that part of us will do whatever it takes to achieve that. But Esther, she is what a mother does when she's faced with what has to be done. A mother is the most fearsome creature on our planet. The mothers of any species, a lion, a bear, they will do anything to protect their cubs. They will put themselves between them and danger, and they will fight fiercely. And when we turn to our divine feminine nature, we are that. We have that strength. We find what's pure in us, that which is love. Nothing will stand between us and what we love. The lesson in this story metaphysically is we destroy ego with pure love. We face and handle adversity with pure love. And we do it in God's time. We take that time to sort it out. By that, we react in patience. She took 3 days. I once took a Mary Morrissey course, and she suggested that waiting 3 days before reacting to something, and I've told you I try and do that quite often. Jesus, again, took 3 days to overcome death. Esther took 3 days to fast. The message here is don't react to your first emotion. Take time for the solution. And that's Esther. She put herself in front of the king, knowing that if he doesn't even want to see her, she can be put to death. She understands how the king sees her. He sees her as beautiful, so she uses that. He offers up to half his kingdom, but she tests him to be sure. She doesn't rush into it. She asks for the first banquet, and he grants her that. She asks for the second banquet. He grants her that. And each time she asks, she's spared and she gets her wish. And each time she plays with his ego. If I have found favor in your sight, she moves the onus onto him. He has only one way to react. She is brilliant in the way she uses everything at her, all her gifts and everything that is placed in front of her. He chose her because he found favor in her sight. He can't just say, I'm just kidding, you know. So he does this. She understands ego. She understands Haman's ego. He cannot resist one more private banquet, let alone two. She knows his ego will destroy him. She knew the king would grant her request, and at the same time, she knows that it would cost him nothing, but gains him everything. And for her, that's what saves her people. Saves her people from genocide. And it's for these reasons that Esther is considered the mother of the Jews. And I just love that story because of the strength and the wisdom of women and mothers. And you really have to seek that out when you read the Bible. So every time there's a female presence in the Bible, slow down a little bit. Look at the impact that she has in the story. Because they're easy to skim over, but you're skimming over something that's quite amazing. You know, it's like peeling the onion back and seeing a whole new vegetable in there. It's just a great thing. So she's why I picked it on Mother's Day. She's not officially a mother, but she is. And we have a lot of people during Mother's Day who aren't mothers or who are missing their mother, who may be alone, but they were just, don't count them down. Acknowledge that each person goes through emotions on Mother's Day. Some get the phone calls from their kids or they hang out with them and they're great. Others don't have that relationship, but they're still mothers. Others chose not to be a mother, but they still need to be honored. You know, we have International Women's Day, but it goes unnoticed. This day, we honor mothers, but we should honor all women in every stage of their life. Grandparents, parents, single moms, anyone who is female. And we should honor our feminine side within us, because then we see women through a whole new light. So that's my talk for today. I'm going to step away while we do a meditation song.
I see your light, I see your beauty, I see your heart, I see you smile, I see your light, I see your beauty, I feel your heart. When
That was a nice song. That was really done well. You guys have stepped it up amazingly. I'd like to do prayers of the people. Today, on this Mother's Day, I'd like to offer prayers to all the women in the world and to everyone, but I focus on the women. At any given moment, there are people facing battles, some known, some not known, fighting to be strong. Maybe they're fighting just to get out of bed and face the day, walk out the door. Maybe they're fighting illness. Maybe they're oppressed. We still have a lot of oppression for females in our world. And we have great examples of those who have fought oppression and come shining through. Hopefully, and we affirm that we will be on an equal footing for all genders, for all races, and all people, where we see each other by the content of their heart and their love and their deeds, and not by gender, race, creed, sexuality, economic status, or where you were born. We've won the birth lottery by being born where we are. And that gift we share to the world to be a beacon of what the best in humanity can be. So we affirm to the world, to everyone in it and every creature, we affirm wholeness, happiness, health, wisdom, kindness, patience, and tenacity. We do this in the name of God, that which created all of us, that process that unites us all. Everything in the universe is connected through those processes and those principles. And since we connect, we cast out the best of us to share with the world. And the best of the world comes back to us. And so it is. Amen. So today's meditation, I'm going to do a little different. I'm just going to tell some stories about my mom as we sit quietly. I'll skip the baseball thing and the swearing. So I ask each of you to get comfortable. Find your comfortable breathing pattern. We know that there's one power and one presence in the universe and in our lives. God the good and great, omnipresent. When I think of my mom, I think of little things. I think of her telling me how much olive oil to put in the bottom of a pan before making tomato sauce. Now, she was very particular. It's the right olive oil that makes the sauce. And she would tell me about this guy in our town that taught her that. He was a karate teacher that my mom worked at the middle school. And when he wasn't teaching karate, he was a janitor there. He was the world's toughest janitor. But he loved making sauce, so we taught Mom, you always got to start with the right olive oil. So for then, she would always spend 20 minutes in the aisle. This the right one, or this the right one, or this the right. I never knew the difference, but she said it, so it was true. I remember her doing anything to make holidays great. She always made the most food. She always bought the most presents. Stockings that would just overflow. You had to put it in. It's almost like you had to have an engineering degree to repack it the way she did. The orange goes in the toe, the slinky goes in the heel, and all these things just kind of float along. Remember her making mock champagne so we could toast New Year's. Every Memorial Day we would go to a place in Lyndhurst, New Jersey that we called Across the River, because there was a park on the other side of the river, and we would go there and barbecue. And half the time, she would bring 3 or 4 of the neighborhood kids with us, so we had a whole group to play with and have a good time. I remember when she worked in the middle school, how many other kids flocked to her to get advice because they didn't feel that they can go to the teachers or the guidance counselor, and she held no judgment. I remember her crying when my brother went off to the service. And I remember her happy when he came home. She loved each one of my brothers and sisters. My younger sister, she gave a kidney to in 1977. And we joked at that time, she doesn't have a spare one to give me. I didn't have kidney disease at the time. What foreshadowing. I remember when I had my first transplant, she would take my car and drive everywhere, and somehow she cleaned out my bank account. But it was fun. That was my mom, you know. I need to solve stuff, I'm going to solve it. I remember sitting her while she cried when her second husband left and what she was going to do with the rest of her life. She was glad he left, but there's certain uncertainty that goes with that. He was not a kind person. And then she decided she was not going to whine or wallow anymore. And she bought tickets and moved to Hawaii. And she stayed there until she moved to New Hampshire to be closer to me and Casey and our grandkids. And she was a great grandparent to them. Being in Hawaii, that's where she met our daughter. My mom had not put herself out there. We never would have adopted our daughter. Our daughter came in her office one day. My mom worked in the therapist's office. And this lady came in, wanted to put my daughter in therapy. And real quickly, they decided that daughter doesn't need therapy, the foster mom does. So every Wednesday, they would come in, and my daughter would play games and chat with my mom. Casey and I were taking adoption classes at the time, but we hadn't told anyone because my family goes nuts over everything. You buy a jelly bean and they'll talk about it for a month. And one day my mom calls up and she goes, "Would you guys be interested in adopting a little girl?" I said, "Mom, yeah, we're taking classes. We're kind of thinking of adoption." And then she told me about Sunday. I told Casey. And said, "Sure." So she put it together, and eventually we went out there and met her. We met somebody's caseworker. And between us all, including my mom, we put it all together. And a few months later, my mom was able to board the plane in Hawaii with my daughter and present her to us. It's the greatest gift a mother can do. She died 20 years ago, the end of March. Not a day that I don't miss her. Not a day that I don't miss a conversation or hear her joke or think about her cooking. And I don't know who you have in your life, but I hope you have fond memories of someone in your life like I do with my mom. And she certainly was not perfect. She was far from perfect. But she did her best each day to overcome that. And that might be one of the best legacies anyone can give. How do you take your next step? And by the time she passed, she had overcome, at least from my perspective, all her insecurities, all her demons, all those things. And I'm really proud of that. So that is our meditation. It wasn't typical, but I thank you for letting me go on about that. And we will do the prayer of tithes and offerings. Divine love adds me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is. Amen. And join us for the prayer protection. The light of God surrounds me. The love of God enfolds me. The power of God protects me. The presence of God watches over me. Wherever I am, God is, and all is well, and we are richly blessed. Awesome. Join us for the peace song, and I thank you guys so much.